You're listening to Ricky and Jimmy on Relationships, the show where we uncover the thoughts and behaviors that are sabotaging your relationship and what you can do about it. Jimmy and I are passionate about sharing the ways that imperfect partners like you and I can shift unhealthy relational dynamics and create closeness. So welcome. Drop your defenses and open your heart, eyes, and ears. Let's learn how to be the best partner we can be together.
Hello, we are back. Are we in double digits now?
Yeah, this is episode 10.
Is this 10?
I'm so excited.
Awesome.
All right, so here's the good news for you. You know how normally you say sometimes we go dark and we get a little moody on here. Today, I don't think there's any dark. I think this is all uplifting stuff that we're going to talk about today. So I'm really excited.
I think you're right. I'm excited too. It's nice to not be depressed on the episode for once. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fun.
So today we're going to go through some practical examples of what we think are just great ideas on how to love your partner.
Well, I loved when we were brainstorming for this episode, the idea that this is like a Friday and Saturday in the life of a healthy relationship.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to throw practical tips out. Imagine that you're in a healthy relationship. These are the things that are probably present during that Friday and Saturday. Peek into your life.
And if they aren't present, then you might want to implement some of these, whichever ones resonate with you, then implement. Totally. Whichever ones you think are completely stupid, obviously don't implement those.
Throw them out. They're not going to be for everybody. And some of them might be intimidating, and you don't have to hit all of them. But just
for sure.
I would think, I know I haven't seen your list yet, but I'm looking at my list going, if I were to implement just one of these on a regular basis, things would just get that much better.
Yeah, our goal is obviously, if both partners are listening to this, that at least that this would be a mutual effort. I mean, we don't ever want only one person to be working on the health and growth of a relationship. But as Ricky has said over and over, one person can affect the marriage or the relationship for the better, obviously. So
and I've noticed when I do things like this, my partner tends to kind of copy me in a good way, Yes. I'll throw it out and he'll notice like, oh, that felt good. I remember when she said that thing yesterday. I'm going to throw that at her tomorrow. So.
Yep. And that's a good example of what we said in the beginning. Our goal is that we're in a healthy relationship, and a healthy relationship is not one where there's chronic selfishness and neglect. So obviously that plays a role in all this. If someone is selfish and they never really think about how you feel loved, then obviously we understand how difficult it is. Where we're just going to throw you 50 more things that you need to be doing to love your partner. We understand how overwhelming that is. So we're kind of just giving ideas to people who are in a mutually reciprocative relationship. Is that a word? No.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But I want the folks who feel really hopeless and as if they're in a one-sided relationship to also realize that these are all atmosphere changers that can help.
Yes.
That's not to say they're going to solve everything. They're not a silver bullet, but all of this stuff can help, even if you're in a distressed relationship.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like the saying, kill him with kindness. I'm not sure if that we should be using that, but...
I love that phrase. I kill lots of people with kindness, Jimmy. It's great. And it works.
Let me just say on a side tangent, I think that sometimes I think you can kind of just overwhelm the relationship with kindness when things aren't going well. I think that you going to your partner and trying to be as loving and sweet as you can and say, hey, I want to know, what do you always say? Like, what's one thing I can do? Or what's two things that I can do to make your day better?
To make you feel loved today.
To make you feel loved today. When you ask somebody that, even if they blow you off, even if they say, oh, come on, you're just whatever negative response you think they're going to have. Yeah. You come back and you do that a couple days later. And then you come back and you do that you make it a consistent thing like, hey, I want to know what I can do to serve you and make you feel loved today. I'm just saying that eventually you will break them because they will either implode. They will either implode with how much shame they have, because truly deep down they want to ask the same question. They just won't because
that's so funny though. Yeah. Shame implosion isn't really what I was going for, but
I'm just saying it's gonna that's what killing them with kindness does, Ricky.
Exactly.
It kills them.
No, it does. All right. Implosions, explosions. One time I said to him, what can I do to make you feel loved today? And he was like, nothing. But then I saw that little smile, that little half smile. Like he still liked that I asked the question. So
yeah. I'm just saying
that for
that
what it's worth.
sometimes when you say that enough and you just beat them down with kindness and compassion and I'm just saying, I bet you eventually they're like, what can I do for you? You know,
I love it.
like,
Probably get that kindness club out, folks, and
anyways.
anyway.
It's
Okay.
it's worth a shot. Okay,
It's worth
so
a
we're
shot. Yeah.
we're gonna start on Friday. We're
Friday
assuming
morning.
Friday morning. We're assuming that it's okay if we, in this scenario both people work. We're not saying that one partner stays home and whatever your dynamic is. Friday
Yeah,
is
and it's
usually
all-
the day where somebody's working.
Sure, and it's also okay if you don't live together. Just saying. Some of my bullet points are for couples who might not live together too, a newer relationship.
Okay, I like that. All right, so what do you got for me Friday morning?
Friday morning. Well, this comes right from the Gottmans because, of course, it does. Because this is the We Worship the Gottmans podcast,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And they talk.
What book would you, if you want to, if someone's like, well, what book should I start with? If I like whoever you're talking about, I want to read a Gottman book.
Oh boy.
I would start with 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work.
Yeah.
It's got a green cover. You'll find it. Buy it on
Yeah.
eBay. It's like $5.
I would say that one's great for non-married couples too. Just saying.
yeah, for sure.
And I want to say that this comes from that book. This one.
Okay.
So this
Hit me.
is talking about relationship rituals. So
Oh, yes.
first thing in the morning, if there's something that you guys can establish that you do together every morning, it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be elaborate, but having something that you do every day together in the morning, it's a safety builder. Consistency feels good for our nervous systems, and it communicates, I'm committed to being there for you on a regular basis. So this could look like asking each other what the rest of your day looks like, sharing some sexy time if you're into that in the morning. Having 5 minutes of silent meditation with each other is a great one. My partner and I do that sometimes. Praying together if you are a religious couple. Any of those things that you're doing on a regular basis together, big safety builders.
I love that. Can I add one?
Please do.
You
Yeah.
probably already have this written down, but I think it would be sweet to ask them what they have going on that day. So,
Yeah. I think I said.
Did
I
you already
think I
mention
said
that? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so
I think,
sorry.
But if I did mention it, you get credit for it because you planted that in my head. That's one of the best things. I think just making a point to show your partner that you care about what their day looks like.
Yeah. And then even more important is, we're not there yet, but even more important is following up. Like,
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll get there later. That'll be
We'll get there
in the
later.
day, but
Okay.
I love it.
okay.
Love that.
I love our start. And
Yeah.
I won't interrupt, but keep going.
Well, I was wondering if you had one for Friday morning because my timeline's already scooting into Friday brunch time here.
Well, I like to, if possible, then this goes back to Gottman too, but if possible, I like to do, like we talked about on the last episode, where if you're parting ways, I like to do the 6-second kiss, or at least a hug that conveys, I'm gonna miss you. I'm excited to see you later.
Yeah, I want to say
Yeah.
did they call that rituals of separation, right?
I'm not sure.
Like
but
separating rituals.
It goes into
they
the
got-
ritual category. Yep.
And that communicates safety even as you're parting. If you're an anxious attacher, you know that parting is kind of scary. It's hard for us to transition from time together to time apart. So those parting rituals that the Gottmans talk about are really great for the anxious attacher.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Please do.
Years
Yeah.
and years ago, when I was first married, I worked with this guy, and every single morning we would just happen to get to work at roughly the same time, and it took us at least 5 minutes to get parked and walk into the building. And every morning at that time, he would be on the phone with his wife, and he would just be they would just be chatting. And I'm not kidding you. Early in my marriage, I remember thinking, he must just be whipped. Like, this is just kind of.
Wow, sad.
I mean, I know that sounds. I know.
Yeah.
But anyways, long story short, now I realize, no, that was just like a wonderful ritual that they had. Maybe she wasn't
Yeah.
awake when he left, so they didn't get to do any talking. So she would wake up, he would give her a call, as he was going into work. And every morning
sweet.
they would have these, just 5 to 7 minute conversations. And they've been married for 20 years. Like, they're doing great.
Yeah. I
So
love
I think
it.
that stuff really matters.
It does really matter. I think about the rituals that I have with my own partner, and they mean a lot more to me than he probably realizes. I think they probably mean a lot to him too.
Yeah, let me just add one tiny thing. I say sometimes in my videos that you never want to teach your partner to live life without you, and these rituals are sometimes the glue that really you can never teach someone to live life without you when you're like consistently trying to like establish connection, because that's what it really is. It's like you said, it's safety. So.
I know that not everybody has this kind of free time or luxury. I guess maybe they would if they got up early. We have a dog, my partner and I, and our morning dog walks, even though I'm not a morning person, I wouldn't miss our morning dog walks for the world. I post a lot of videos with my partner on our dog walk conversations because that's where we get our best talking done too.
Those are usually the morning?
Yeah, it's usually always in the morning. Yep, before any of the workday starts. Yep.
Yeah. And just one last thing I'll say, if one partner is still asleep, like let's say whoever wakes up and goes to work earlier than the other partner is awake, I still think you can establish a ritual of, and I'm sure you already do this, but texting them, just not forgetting to text them that morning. Something
good
sweet.
Morning, just
good,
a little.
Anything, good morning,
Anything.
I'm thinking of you. I hope you have a great day. Hey, good luck on yada yada that I know you have going on today. Whatever,
Yeah, I love it.
Hit me with some brunch.
So for brunch, I wrote down, commit yourself to communication. And I know that sounds a little vague, but let me explain what I mean by that. I personally, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening, I used to be a really big feeling stuffer or need stuffer. I would not be talking about the things that I wanted. And that might come up later in the day. As you get started with your day, you're noticing they didn't take the trash out. You're noticing the sink is full of dishes. So committing yourself to communication means, and I get this from my friend, The Loving Avoidant. You can find that account on Instagram. The Loving Avoidant told me, aim to ask for 100% of what you want 100% of the time. So that doesn't mean we're stuffing down the things that are bothering us or the things that we want. It means that we're paying attention to that and we're communicating it fully all the time. That's a really ambitious thing to aspire to, but it's worth aspiring to.
Yeah, I love that. I can see some people might take whatever the word I'm looking for, but they would say that sounded a little bit like complaining. Like you should be like.
I can see why people would think it. Yeah.
Like, does everything need to be expressed right then? I'm feeling something, so now I need to tell you.
I'm really glad you said that. Okay, so I suppose this would probably work better for people who were having issues with not bringing that stuff up. But I still think in my own relationship that I consider very healthy, I don't want my partner going through the day running into things that are bothering him. You should find a kind way to say it. So complaining is not the way to do it. But if he runs into something during the day that bothers him, that I'm the cause of, I want to know. And that doesn't mean he calls me and he goes, oh my gosh, the sink is full of dishes again. That's not it. It's just like, hey, he'll call and say, hey, you told me that we're supposed to bring up any little thing that we encounter. And I'm doing that now, even though it's hard to say. There's dishes in the sink and that kills me. And that's my opportunity to go, oh my gosh, I am so sorry about that. I got busy, but I'm headed right downstairs. So I know it sounds like I'm encouraging people to complain, but in a healthy relationship, we want to know when those moments pop up for our partner. In
a healthy relationship, I believe we should keep short accounts. That means that we're not letting things just pile and pile and pile. Because then you come to them then you explode and you come to them with 20 things that you're upset about. Instead of, in the moment, you could have had a calm talk about, what you're needing from them, or where there's this miscommunication.
You nailed it. It keeps those issues small. It keeps them from being huge issues. If you make it a point to bring it up, when it's still small.
We should invite and encourage. We should want to know how our partner feels neglected or unappreciated, and
Absolutely.
certain things are going to trigger them. We should want to know what those are, and if we do that, even unintentionally, I wrote down, or for when we talk about just general ways to show love, admitting when you've made a mistake is huge. I mean, being humble enough to say, like, it's very tough. How often have we said, like, I'm sorry, that was wrong? Even if it was unintentional, we can still, that's one way to show love to our partner, obviously.
Totally. And in my scenario where my partner's calling me with his commitment to communication, it's my job to not be defensive about that. And to go,
for sure.
Well, here's something he's concerned with.
For sure.
Anyway.
It's obviously a balance, as is everything. It doesn't mean that we, obviously we should not be just overwhelmed with negativity.
Right.
But at the same time, we should invite our partner to complain when it's something that's important to them.
Well, hey, speaking of balance, my next point is like the counterbalance to that, right?
Okay.
This comes from the Gottmans too. They said, make it a point to say yes at least once every day to your partner. And I have a direct quote in here. Dr. Gottman writes, a husband and wife are continually making bids for each other's attention, introducing a conversation topic, implicitly asking for a favor, etc. And the most successful couples are the ones who continually turn toward their partners. They say yes to each other's requests for attention, interaction, and affection. Not every time, but often. And this builds up a bank of love and trust.
Yeah, he says, I won't be able to quote the stats, but they were fascinating. He said, like, in the divorce, he studied who knows how many thousands of couples, but he said that in the couples that when he predicted that they would not make it, he said that they were turning towards each other, like, I don't know, 20% of the time. Like, those bids for connection were going unmet. And it's not much. And the partners that stayed together, it was always much, much higher. It was, it was like 60% of the time so that brings up such a great point when it comes to just like loving our partner. And I didn't mean to go too deep into like theories and stuff like that. I wanted to keep it super specific, but it's fascinating to me. But I lost my train of thought, obviously.
Well,
but,
I think that it's helpful it's reassuring that we don't have to turn toward 100% of the time, because I can't be alone in this. Not everything that my partner wants me to pay attention to is interesting to me. He's a different person,
Yeah.
So, but sometimes I have to make a real effort to notice and pay attention to the things that he's calling out. But I look at that as an act of love. I'm a huge nerd. So I know, like, maybe most of the things I'm trying to point out to him are not interesting to him. And he puts forth this very valiant effort to pay attention to the nerd things that I'm throwing at him every day.
Oh my gosh, that's
wonderful.
And
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
So that's exactly what I was going to say, where I completely blanked, is that it's so important that we pay attention to their bids for connection. I mean, like, what does that normally look like? What do their bids for connection normally look like? And
and it's different for everybody. For me, I'm going to be throwing weird, nerdy statistics out, and I'm looking for that's interesting. That's all I need. That's all I need.
That's all I need.
For him, he I don't know. He's very visual. He points out things the way things work, he's very mechanical.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't care less about that stuff, but it's important to him.
You shared a really nice story about where he was rebuilding his car, and you showed interest in that, and that meant the world to him. Like, so that was a bid for connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Could I repeat any of what he told me that day? Probably not. But I remember the look on his face when I showed interest. So
I think that's so important. Sweet. All right, hit me with whatever your next point is.
Okay, so we're further into the day, and this might sound a little weird if we're talking about building a secure connection, but bear with me, guys. Do one thing for yourself. This is a good one for the chronic self-abandoners, for the anxious attachers who are always trying to get closer. That kind of thing can actually serve to push our partner away a little bit. Making a point to do something independent that takes care of yourself is actually something that builds a lot of trust and room in the relationship for both people to be more of themselves. It could be a 15-minute break where you pull up a YouTube yoga instruction video. It might be scheduled gym time. That's what it was for me today. It might be a reading break, or just taking a quick walk outside. Something that you're doing kind of on your own for yourself. That kind of independence is so important in not smothering a partner, not making your relationship the sole focus of your happiness and day to day, right? I know that's a weird one to put in here, but it's vital.
I think you're so spot on. I did write that down in.
Do you have that too?
Yeah, I wrote. Well, it's when I'm looking at it now. Look, it sounds like just so harsh, but I said give him space. Like give him space.
Yeah.
But like what?
No,
that just sounds.
important.
I don't know. But it's just like you said. You articulated it extremely more than I could. But like,
I appreciate that.
There's so much. There's so much to be said about, especially if you would count your partner as a little bit more on the independent side, a little bit more on the like, just kind of fearful of being like, of their independence being taken away, their freedom being taken away is what I'm trying to say. If you give that person a little bit more space, that does not mean that don't hold them accountable to just like being like, they don't have to do any chores. They don't have to do any, they don't need to come home from work. They can go to the bar. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about neglect.
No.
We're talking about, you feel like they're showing up for you most of the time. There's something to be said about like giving them some more slack on the rope, and that keeps them wanting more of, that when they don't feel threatened by that you're going to take away their freedom, they come back to you so much more open, and they want to establish closeness.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And it helps preserve individual independence and some intrigue between the partners. Esther Perel talks a lot about how vital independence is for sexual desire. So that's kind of fun. If you're worried that your partner is kind of losing that intrigue and otherness that makes you very appealing to them, finding independent things to pursue, it may be the nerdy books that I love. Even though Chris is not into that, the fact that I have all this knowledge floating around in my head that I'm seeking out and I'm very passionate about it, that's exciting for him. I'm my own person, and that does stoke desire for sure.
I love that. What else you got?
Well, I guess maybe now it's later in the day. Perhaps both partners are home from work, or if you don't live together, you are together in the same space. An appreciation ritual. I want to say that came from the Gottmans too. But verbalizing the good that you noticed in each other today is massive. This is where you might say, hey, thank you for that good morning text. That really set my whole day off right. I appreciate, hey, you look amazing today. Just hearing something like that, right? That can really be an appreciation boost. What else would be? Hey, thank you for getting together with me tonight. If it's a date, like, I love seeing you. Thank you for making time for me. Or I guess if you're married, and that's probably a good thing to say thank you to also, because things can get busy, especially if you have children. Yeah.
I think you're spot on about just like a culture of appreciation. I find that you're either going to, your natural default's going to be to underappreciate. That's just what your natural, most people's natural default is, just going to be to get complacent. And
we get comfortable.
Comfortable and complacent, and just kind of like an overall emotional laziness that really hurts our relationships, and we have to be intentional about that.
It does. I'm thinking of Frank, who's probably thinking right now,
Frank.
Why should I, listen up, Frank, this is for you. Why should I have to tell her that I appreciate her? She should know that already. I'm here, aren't I?
Oh, I love that. And
it's like, man, Frank, come on. Like, how hard is it to just be like, you look beautiful today. That's it. Yeah. You look beautiful. That's 4 words that would just totally change her evening, Yeah.
And I like to say, Frank, don't just compliment her appearance. Tell her how she's beautiful on the inside. Tell her.
That's good.
I like to say, don't just tell him that you love her. Tell her why you love her. That obviously applies for women to men, obviously, as well.
Totally.
But I think you're spot on. I mean, I get it that sometimes it seems like we get set in these little roles where our whatever partner it is, they make dinner, they do the dishes, whatever. We think that there's certain roles so we don't need to thank them for those because like, well, I don't need to thank people for doing the bare minimum.
Right.
But what we forget is like, what I like to say is unexpressed gratitude will be interpreted as ingratitude. I mean,
oh, that's very wise. Yeah.
And
And I'm
I didn't
glad
make
you
it
said
up.
that.
I stole it.
You stole it. I'm gonna use that one though too. I like to think of myself as a very appreciative person, but if I think about it, I've got a whole list of things that I just imagine. That's just what he does around the house.
Absolutely.
And I need to not do that. I need to tell him like, "Hey, you took the garbage out like a boss. Thank you. I really appreciate that."
Do you know what's so funny? You know what's so wild? Is that is the go-to for every. If I had a nickel for every time I heard a woman say like, well, I make my husband take the trash out, or like,
so
or a guy's like, well, I take the trash out. I'm like, are we really scraping the bottom of the barrel here? Like, why is taking the trash out? I can literally take the trash out and replace the liner, which I do constantly.
Yeah.
I can do that in like literally 30 seconds, and men are still being praised for this. Like,
oh my gosh, maybe it's because I hate that job so much. I seriously the garbage disgusts me so much. The smell,
that must be it.
And it's heavy, and right. So when he does that for me,
I'd gladly take that task on. Absolutely,
do it.
Like,
I know.
Yeah.
And he said that too. He's like, "Why do you care about that so much?" And I'm like,
That's
something
funny.
about it. Thank you for doing that disgusting task that I don't want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So there it
now,
is.
If we could just get him to do the litter box, then we'll. No,
oh my gosh! I'd go get him a ring, probably. Man, I hate that job.
Right, I know. No, I think that you're absolutely spot on about just a culture of appreciation. We should go overboard. I literally think you should think of how many things you could tell them you're grateful for about them, whatever they do, characteristics that they have. And then just continually remind yourself, like just actively think about the things that you love about them, or the things that they do for you, and then thank them for that.
Say it. I think the only downside to that would be that he would think something was up. But,
for sure.
But once a few days of that went by and he realized that nothing's up and I'm just appreciative, I think that would go really well.
And some people might say, well, if you do it constantly, then it would get old. I don't know.
Do you ever get tired of someone telling you that you
did a great job?
Wonderful partner
Never.
And did a great job? I don't. Yeah,
Never.
I don't.
That brings me. Let me touch on this real quick, only because I don't mean to pick on genders. I don't normally do that, but I wrote down some specific things for women. If women were like, because I get questions from women saying, how can I love my man? I've already told you all these. You already know all these. No,
but we're doing this for Frank, Jimmy, not me.
We're doing this.
I like hearing it again. Yeah.
No, I'm doing this for Frank's wife. This is what she should do for Frank.
Right.
Okay, you already mentioned one of these. Take an interest in the things that interest him. I don't. That's free. You don't need. You can do that. I'm not saying that it's going to be interesting to you, but you can take an interest. Let's say he loves fishing, and you are always complaining that you guys never get any time together because he's always fishing. Go fishing with him. Say, Frank, I'm going fishing with you this Saturday. We're going together.
I'm sure he'll love that. Don't you think?
And if he doesn't, say, I'm going, and you're going to teach me how to fish, and you're going to be really nice about it, and you guys are going to have a great time. Maybe not this time, but next time you go, he'll be like, dang it.
Once you learn how to cast.
Carol, I do want you to come with me.
Carol. Oh, and Frank's wife is now forever Carol. All right.
Okay. The next thing, I already mentioned this, and you already mentioned this, but praise the things that he gets right. I know he doesn't get everything right. I get that. But the things that he does get right, I think it's very helpful to praise him. And I get a lot of pushback and say, like, why do I need to praise him? Is he like a small child? And I don't want to say yes, but like the male ego, it is really fragile. And you know what's really nice? When you get praised for what you're getting right. It's nice.
Oh, sure.
And I'm not saying that he's going to like immediately do more of what he's supposed to be doing. I wish he would do that.
Yeah.
But I still think the nice thing to do is when somebody gets something right, we praise them.
Oh, right. That's really important for distressed couples, too, who tend to be over-focusing on what their partners are getting wrong. Making it a point to point it out and voice appreciation whenever something goes right can really repair. Also, I'm in a class right now, behavior, And we're talking a lot about positive reinforcement. And positive reinforcement is not just for dogs, right? Like that works really well on
Or
our
children.
partner too. Or children. Yeah, same thing. So you notice, if you tell him how sexy he looks taking that garbage out, he's going to be running to it the next time. Just saying. And right?
I hope so. All right, so let me go through these real quick. I won't waste all of your time, but this is for Carol. Okay, so I think it's so important for women to say, we're obviously talking about heterosexual relationships here, for women to say to their man occasionally, probably even if it's not true, but say something along the lines of like, I'm proud of you. And I trust your judgment. How often has he ever heard that? Where there's some sort of a thing where it's like we could go either way or I could argue with him. And it's just like, I trust you, babe. Like, I trust you. What does that convey? That conveys like, I believe that you're knowledgeable. I believe you can execute this plan. So we're in a tough jam right now. And he's like, what should we do, babe? And she's like, I trust you. Like,
I'm gonna try that. Although I am quick to throw out the fact that women like to hear that too, I want to say that probably touches on something very basic for a lot of men.
So
that
true.
Would really work for them in a big way. So hit me with that again, because I'm going to use it tomorrow when I see my partner again.
You can say, I trust you, or I trust your judgment. The next time, like, let's say he's like lost. He's been driving for 10 minutes and he's completely lost.
Yeah, what if it's not true?
Doesn't matter. Okay. Doesn't matter.
You know what though?
You can do this, babe.
I could just do that.
I trust you.
I think he's lost, but it's not like we'll never make it home. So
exactly.
I can say, how about
and it's
that?
a win. And it's a win. You're going to make it home. You might make it home 15 minutes late, but you know what?
Yeah.
He has this feeling of like, you know what? I can. So often we think of men as so strong, but like I said before, we have fragile egos, and every woman will admit to that. Everyone will go, yep, he sure does.
Right.
So what are we going to do with that? Like, we can either think of him as, well, he's got a fragile ego, so we can think of him as in a negative way, like, oh, he's just a baby. Or we can think maybe he just needs some like admiration. Like, hey, way to go, buddy. Like, I trust your judgment. Like, you got this. I'm on your team. I wrote down the next point is to be his cheerleader. Find something where you can be his cheerleader about.
Yeah.
That's very loving to do. Okay, my final point from the women to men is to brag. This goes both ways, to be honest with you. Is to brag to someone else about them. Like, be sure when you're out in public, like brag on him. Like, you should see the windowsill he built the other day. Like, he's amazing. He did all that with his bare hands. Like, I mean, just him hearing that is like, wow, she really thinks I'm something,
No, I've noticed that. I've done that at a party. So you guys should see the thing that he built, and he puffs up like, he just loves it. So
it's lovely. Oh, what a nice thing to do for somebody.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Okay.
That's so funny though. Just as we said in the beginning of this episode, not everything applies to everyone.
No.
My partner likes to brag about me at parties, and I actually am really uncomfortable with that. Like, intensely, I'm like trying to diminish the things that he's saying.
Oh my gosh, the people pleaser cannot take a compliment.
No, I can't. But I think he
Someone
knows
gave
for
me a compliment today, Ricky, like a good friend of mine. I died. I died. I wanted, you know what I wanted to say to him?
What?
I cannot receive a compliment. If anybody else out there is like, yep, that's me, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If somebody, this was a text, but if somebody said to me, like, he literally said, "You're so funny and smart," and I like couldn't. I was like, no, like I cannot receive that compliment. I was just, this is what everyone does. That's a people pleaser. Like, you're funny and smart. Like, you are so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the go-to. It's
so
excellent.
Funny. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a side tangent.
No, I love that side tangent. For my partner, though, I think he knows that I don't want to be bragged about at parties. And if he just throws his arm around my shoulder,
oh my gosh,
that's the ultimate for me.
Yeah,
so.
I wrote down showing affection in public. That's not for everybody, but usually it's for one of the partners, where they would say, you know what, I would love it if you came over, especially when there's like a big gathering, and you just, so there's something about your man just putting his arm around you, and it's like, we're together, like me and him, like this is my guy, like he he doesn't want me to feel alone at this thing. Like I'm with him, and he's not ashamed to be with me. Like it's all this is happening subconsciously. He doesn't need to say any of this, but just that coming over and giving you a nice hug. Like, she's mine. I'm happy to have her.
For the ladies, I want to say that's our moment where the partner is like, you know how you guys feel when we're like, oh, look at this thing that he built, you guys. Isn't that incredible? And you feel like 10 stories taller than you are. Having him just like plant a smooch on my cheek at a party or throw his arm around me, that's when I really feel like my partner is proud of me. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important to go back to what we were saying earlier, which is when those things happen, we should be sure to express them later on when you're just having those little moments where you can say, when you did that earlier, it's just like we said earlier, we should invite and encourage complaints. We should also be intentional about like, hey, when you did that earlier, like, man, did that make me feel loved? Like, you probably didn't even know that you were doing it.
Totally.
This is what was happening for me. Like, you got it. And men, that's the whole thing about like praising them when they get something right. Like, I'm just saying, optimally, that should cause him to like, that plants a little seed in there of like, oh, next time we're out in public, I'm going to do that again.
Totally.
I'm not saying that you got to reward him like a dog, but at the same time, like...
It is, though. It is, and it works. So, hey, that brings us to Friday night.
So, I love Friday nights. Who doesn't love a Friday night?
Everybody loves Friday night, but I'm saying on this Friday night...
If you don't love Friday night, I say get off this... No, I'm just...
I wish it was Friday night right now. So, it's Friday night, and it's... I didn't write down a fancy catchy title for this, but this is your time together where you're recapping the things that you loved that the person did during the day. If that's a ritual that you could make where you both just sit down and say, hey, I want to talk about 3 big things that I noticed that I appreciate about you today, and you will both go to sleep feeling like it was a good day, even if it was a regular day, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. This might be inappropriate, but why not? Why not?
But
pull
it is
it out
Friday
now?
night, so.
I wrote down to initiate. This doesn't mean it has to. It's just like if you're in the mood, you know. I think it's so wonderful when there's a mutual initiation of any sexual activity, or or maybe it doesn't have to be crazy. It can just be like some sort of physical affection or intimate, you know.
Totally. And for the ladies who have a headache on Friday night, a Friday night back rub could even be pretty great.
I think that's so wonderful. But but just initiating that, like, I think we should want it to be mutual. I don't like it when it's only one person that's initiating every time, especially when it comes to sexy time. That shouldn't be there. We should at least aspire to be a little bit more spontaneous, a little bit more mutually initiative.
Sure.
That's my 2 cents.
I just read a pretty fantastic article in favor of scheduling sexy time, which is something that I've never felt fantastic about, but for the lower drive partner and the higher drive partner, scheduling sexy time, especially on something kind of low stakes like a Friday night, it takes a lot of the anxiety out of mismatched sex drives or, 2 people who just aren't usually on the same page about that.
Yep. And if you want to hear more about that, I believe it was our last episode, 2 episodes ago, I'm not sure, but we did an episode on lower drive partners and or high drive, higher, low, whatever. But on that subject, I think that scheduled sexy time that you talked about, I think that's so wonderful, because in the beginning, oftentimes we think about it as prudish or, what a sad relationship that you're like, but it's not like that at all. You can make it so much more fun. And like we talked about Friday during the day, you're both separated. I think that one of the areas where we could get better at when it comes to playfulness is sending your partner, especially if you've planned some sexy time. It's not about, there shouldn't be anxiety around it. It should be more of like anticipation, like, hey, I'm excited for tonight when we have some time together. And you can send those flirty text messages. You can send those inappropriate messages. I mean, I guess all I'm saying is, especially in a long-term relationship or a long-term marriage, When's the last time you sent him an inappropriate text? Like,
Yeah,
come on.
bust that eggplant emoji out. That will,
like,
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. I think it's fun.
I understand that there's a lot that goes into that where you're like, well, I wish I could feel more playful if he would do the dang dishes. I get it. But like,
Yeah.
we should at least have a goal to where like, I want to be more playful with my partner.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's
So
a
bust
great
out
goal to have.
that eggplant emoji once in a while.
Or the peach. That's a good one.
Yes.
In combination.
He would be like, who are you?
Right.
Carol?
Carol, is it? Did someone take your phone? Yeah. I think I want to say too, a lot of the people listening to this are not necessarily in a relationship or a long-term relationship, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll never be scheduling sex. That sounds terrible." But
Right.
for those of us who are in very long-term relationships, we know that a waning of sexual desire or the ebb and flow is super normal. It's so normal. And I think it's everybody's part to kind of do what they can to try to make things kind of fun. Because it will die if you let it, you know?
Both people should be intentional about that. And when both people
Yeah.
are intentional about that,
Yeah,
you will
fireworks.
always hear
Eggplant
people
emoji.
say, I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we're doing this.
Totally.
So yeah. Read some good
Okay.
books on it. Is Come As You Are, is that a good book for them to read on that?
It's the best book. It's one of my very favorite books on the subject.
Emily Nagasaki, I don't remember her name. Nagoski, maybe.
Nagoski, yeah.
Okay.
Nagasaki.
You'll figure it out.
It's her name's Emily. The book is Come As You Are. It's one of my
It's
favorite
pink.
books. You guys will love it.
All right, hit me with, do we have anything else for Friday night?
No, I would happily go to sleep after a day like that. I don't have anything else. Do you?
Sounds like a wonderful day.
It does.
Let's wake up Saturday morning.
Okay, Saturday morning. The very first thing, clearly this is coming over from Friday, but your morning
Yeah.
ritual counts on Saturday too.
Yeah.
Whether it's a dog walk or you're praying together or whatever it is that you want to do. The next thing on my list for Saturday is to do something together.
Love that.
And I don't care if it's only a half hour that you have scheduled. If the most important relationship in your life can't get at least a half hour of dedicated time, why the heck are you in a relationship? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be the entire day, but
No.
it's got to be some of your day, you know? I think.
Yeah. We cannot get lazy when it comes to, if you are already thinking about that hunting, those 3 hours that you're going to go hunting and the 3 hours that you're going to go fishing and the 4 hours that you're going to watch football, if you're not thinking about it, at least in addition to that, well, what am I going to do with my sweetheart today to make them feel like, hey, we're doing this stuff together. I read something interesting on how important it is that when we do something together, like think about it like an escape room. Like, let's say that you plan something Saturday, like, hey, we're going to go do this escape room together. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
It could be
Look
like
how
hiking.
excited I am, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I love escape rooms. Yeah.
It could be something like, let's go hike this mountain together that we've never hiked. My point is, when you do something challenging together, whatever that is, maybe you build something together. I don't know. I know that it could be a source of contention if you let it, or when you do something challenging together, when you overcome an obstacle together, that releases those interesting endorphins in your body, and you bond
does.
together.
It is. It's very bonding. Yeah.
And so
why do you say source
Yeah.
of contention?
Because if I have to put an IKEA furniture together with my wife, we might want to hurt each other.
Oh, I see. Or if you're climbing a mountain and you're not super into mountain climbing, yeah, that could be rough.
Or you're like, you're really slow. Come on. No, I'm just saying, like,
right.
we're better now. We put together something and we didn't fight, so that was good.
This is a personal story, isn't it? It's feeling like it.
Yeah, it's all personnel. But when we do escape rooms together or stuff like that, I love doing that stuff with you. Like, I love meeting a challenge or overcoming an obstacle with you, and that stuff bonds you. When I talk to men, I'm like, you don't just have to feel close in the bedroom. There's a lot of other areas where you can feel close with her, and I want you to seek those areas out.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. No, that's huge. I think I always hate to generalize, but I think for men, taking on a challenge together on the weekend would be very satisfying. Frank, if you're looking for a way to delight Carol, doing something that's more one-on-one, a little slower paced, and a lot of talking would probably be very satisfying for her. If you're about to set sail on that fishing trip, give her a half hour of conversation over coffee. I mean, that'll really float her boat, you know?
Yeah, there's so many women, like I said, I don't like to generalize, but so many women, their top ways that they feel loved is quality time. If you can just prioritize some emotional connection with the most important woman in your life, where you just sit down and spend some quality time with her and just listen to what's going on in her life, and like that means a lot to her. And hey, here's
the beautiful thing. You don't even have to be good at it. My partner is not sitting down at the table going, "Tell me about the depths of your heart, Ricky." He's not saying stuff like that. He's a pretty typical guy, but he found the magic key to this is just asking me questions. Just ask me questions. That's it. That's all he does.
Questions.
He just asks questions. He's not.
And then he goes like this.
Yeah, and that means so much to me. Is he even listening? I don't know, but I so appreciate the eye contact and the nodding. I know he hears a lot.
Oh, and you touched on it's so important. It's just. I don't think she's asking for that much. It's like Ricky said, 30 minutes. Give her 30 minutes before you go and watch football for 5 hours. Give her 30 minutes
right.
of where you put your phone away. So if your phone beeps, don't look at it. She's the most important thing right now. And with your body language and with your eyes, you're focusing and you're giving her that attention.
Totally.
She deserves that. She deserves that, Frank.
And
ladies,
and
you know that.
I go fishing. I go fishing with my partner.
Is
that the way I would ever spend my time if it were just me living in my white fluffy condo with no man present? No, I would probably never fish again. I hope he didn't hear that. but I go fishing with him on a regular basis, and he just glows.
Oh,
don't even get me started on if I actually catch a fish. That's like next level. But
I just think it's beautiful that he enjoys that you're out there.
Yeah, he does. He really does. And I enjoy that he's enjoying that. So
I picked on the ladies a little bit, so let me pick on Frank another.
Okay.
I'm sure I've already picked on him. But when it comes to specific ways to love your partner, I think it would go a long way if you wrote her some, I want to say love letters, but if that just overwhelms you, if you're like, letter.
My partner.
He's
not here listening to this, but somewhere far away, there's steam rolling out of his ears right now, and he's like, "Jimmy, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that."
So I have a substitute for you.
Okay, great.
You don't have to write a love letter, but I think you should write a love note. I think at least it doesn't have to be every day, because then you're like, well, that just sounds daunting. But make it so it's infrequent enough to where she's like, "Oh, I got one today." Once every 3 days or something, write her a note that says that she's special and that you love X about her, and thank you for doing that. It's 3 lines, and it's going to mean the world to her.
I like that. So, and even with a partner like mine, I've never gotten a love letter from him in the years that we've been together, but I get notes all the time.
And they're lovely.
All the time. They're super lovely. And I'm not sitting around pining for a love letter. I've got a little box full of notes, and I save them. Because
exactly, I was just about to say, a lot of women will save them because they mean so much. And Frank, you're missing out on an opportunity if you're not writing those little notes.
Yeah, so easy.
Okay, so the next thing I would ask Frank, I would encourage you to plan a date. I would take some initiative.
Great Saturday thing.
It's a Saturday, bro. Like you watched 5 hours of football. At least plan a date before that. So afterwards, you're like, "Carol, we're going out to the Outback. Wherever you want to go."
Applebee's got your name on it, babe. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Bottomless margaritas for you, my dear.
That actually sounds great.
I know, right? I think taking that initiative and planning a date, I've yet to hear a woman say, "I hate when he plans a date." I can't stand that. Like when he takes initiative and he knows that I love that, and I just can't stand that. When he makes a reservation, oh please.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get some, Frank? No, I don't hear I don't really hear that. Okay, the next thing I would say
Oh,
is...
wait, before you go on,
no,
I
I'm
saw
so sorry.
I saw a fun little trick on the internet the other day.
I love
Or
tricks.
did this come from your video, Jimmy? If this is you, stop me. But it's been in my head and I can't. It's living rent free. I can't get it out.
Okay.
If you're a man, if you're Frank, and you're not sure where to take her out on that date, this had to have come from you.
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
say
that's
like,
me.
hey,
Yeah, that's me.
you know that place that you were talking about the other day? Like, as soon as you said that in that video, I knew what place I wanted to go to. What a fantastic trick.
Is that
I
not
haven't
so
told
funny?
Chris about that, but I'm going to. Yeah, it's what genius. Because if you were to ask her where do you want to go, she's going to clam up. She's going to be indecisive, right? Don't do
Sure.
that. Just assume that she already knows. Hey,
And she might even say, well, why can't you just pick somewhere and take me?
yeah, she might say that, but
You could
I
say,
don't know.
You know where I'm taking you, babe? I'm taking you to that place that you were talking about. You were talking about last
And
week
they're
about how you want to go there.
yeah,
It's like, which one? Like,
yeah, so good. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, the last thing, I'm sure there's more. Poor Frank. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit more. But one thing that I'm not really good at that I have to keep myself. I have to keep up to this, and I'm sure you do too. Is buying gifts. Sometimes you're in these
Oh.
relationships. Sometimes you're in
a
these
hard one.
relationships where you don't even do those anymore. Like you've completely, and I understand that. I just
Yeah.
I think it would go a long way if you pre-thought about the next special occasion that's coming up. Let's say it's her birthday's coming up, and you know what? She doesn't even care about her birthday. I didn't get her a gift last year, so she's not going to care. I think it would go a long way for you to do even something little. Make her something.
Yeah.
Go drill a heart and whatever. Like do something. It wouldn't take you
Right.
that long to do something. Like
Yeah.
anyways,
And,
I think
and
having
you
that
can-
forethought makes a big difference.
It does. And you can have a talk with your partner or spouse about gifts too, because some people get very weird about gifts.
Sure.
It happens, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm one of those people. I'm a little weird
Yeah.
about gifts too. So it's cool to have a conversation like, hey, what's your thought? What's your thought on gifts? And they're
Yeah.
going to have an opinion on that, and that can help you. It can help
That's
guide
true.
you. You know.
As we said earlier, a lot of this stuff is specific to your specific partner. So like
Totally.
one of the best things that we've already touched on this is like, how do you feel loved and valued the most? Like allow them to be allow them to teach you
Yeah.
about them, because if you let them, they should give you clues about how they feel loved.
Yeah,
And-
ideally it's something you guys can talk about openly, but I know that can be tough too. But ask questions, you know?
Ooh, can I pick on Frank one more time?
Please do.
So, sorry, Frank. I think this goes without saying because we've touched on it so often, and I pick on Frank a lot for this, but I think it would go a really long way for you to know what chores need to get done around the house and to take initiative to do those chores. I have never heard of a woman say that that's annoying to her. Now, there are women who say, I like to do the dishes. Like, I don't like him doing don't cook and clean, or don't cook and do the dishes. That's my domain, and I'll take
Right.
care of it. I have heard people say that, and that's more power to, like, that's awesome. But I would still say in that relationship, we should go up to our partner and say, I understand you don't want me helping with the dishes and the cooking, but like, what can I do that you feel
I
like
like that.
would take a
Yeah.
burden off of you, that you don't feel like you have to carry that mental load? Like, what can I do?
I really like that.
I've never
as
heard a woman say
partner-
that is annoying.
Totally. As a partner who's been banned from doing the laundry in a previous relationship, that's actually happened. I wish that I would have said, what can I do instead? Right? Like, you're not cool with the way that I do the laundry. I can accept that, but what can I do so that you don't feel like you're taking on the vast majority of the
I
chores?
love that. Yeah. Yeah. But doing that stuff without having to be asked, from what I've heard, I'm not a female, but I try to get inside their brain and understand them so I can help the Franks of the world.
Right.
And I've heard almost unanimously that is something that makes somebody feel valued.
I love that. And I want to say, I know Frank might not believe this, but
Yeah.
I am very much a female Frank. Just saying.
Yeah.
I tend to fall more into the group of people that Jimmy's audience is complaining about more so than, you know, I really like him.
Yeah.
And so just imagine Frank, and then all he does is read books on emotional intelligence. Then you've got me, right? The emotional intelligence.
What a combination!
Is there. Yeah, I know. My lucky partner. So, but other than that, the other things are rough. So it's really helpful for me to hear as a partner who might not be pulling their weight as much as they could. How I can do that, you know, if I'm banned from laundry. That's not this relationship, but, you know, there are other things that he prefers to do because I don't do them in the way that he likes them to be done. It's nice to know that I can say, what else can I do today? You know, that would mean a lot to my partner.
Yeah.
Just so that Frank doesn't feel totally singled out. It's also
Frank, I do not want you to feel singled. If you're even listening to this, I am so proud of you. Like you're I'm so proud of you if you're listening. Any of the Franks out there. Can I just mention one real quick thing about the cooking?
Sure.
One way we do show love to our partner is like cook their favorite meal. Like that is something that we can do that is loving. However, I did write this down. This is a side tangent, but I see this a lot with men, and I was trying to write down specific ways to give you examples of like what I think would be helpful and loving. If your partner comes in with groceries, I don't care what you're doing. You stop and you go get the groceries. Like
that's our rule. That's our rule. It doesn't matter who it is that went out and got the food. If the other person stops what they're doing immediately and helps, yeah.
Unless you're doing something really important, like I say you can at least ask. Do you want me to?
Sure.
Do you want me to help you with the groceries? I wouldn't. I don't ask. I just go.
Yeah.
I do most of the grocery shopping anyway, so I don't have to worry about that. But I wrote that down because I thought that was important. All right, I've been talking a lot, so I want to hear you talk.
Great. That's all I've got for my Saturday.
Oh, fantastic.
I have to do something together and do something apart. I don't know. Do you have other things? Your list was longer than mine, so let's hit on some of yours.
I'll have you to, you can bounce ideas off of this.
Sure.
So we already talked about planning a date, just kind of like someone taking initiative and planning that date.
I love that.
Or a surprise trip. I mean, I'm just saying, if you don't have kids, man, plan a surprise trip. She would love that. She would love that.
Whoa, I've never had someone plan a surprise trip for me. That sounds like
go
amazing.
Somewhere close. Go somewhere a couple hours away. Like it doesn't have to be that expensive. Okay, this is a huge one. I get this a lot. I understand how this could really hurt someone. I said it's very loving if you follow through on your promises. If you say you're going to do something, I mean, man, you got to follow through. Or if you don't, you have to at least acknowledge, like, oh yeah, I messed up on that. Do you need to take a break? You looked like you. Did your dog just throw up?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I heard something out there that was. She looks okay. I'll let you know. That's
funny. Okay. Let me move on. I'm just going to, since we are already taking a pause, I'm going to move on to this one.
Okay.
I wrote down, listening is more than hearing. We already talked about this. Like engage with them. Really, it doesn't take that much time. A lot of men especially think that I'm just telling them to like listen to their partner for hours on end. And that's not really what they want most of the time. They really just need some good quality time together.
Yeah.
And then they feel connected. They feel like you care about. But if you're not interested in that at all, I feel like our partner can pick up on that, regardless of regardless of the gender. If you're not curious about their life, Gottman talks about this. This is something we haven't touched on yet. It's loving to ask them about their dreams. Gottman loves to talk about that, and rarely do we bring that up about how important it is to know what our partner's dreams are. Like, what's your dream for like this next 5 years? What's your dream career? What does it look like?
That feels good just hearing you say that. And we talk about things like that on our dog walks a lot, which is great.
Yeah. I think that bonds us in an interesting way.
Well, and it shows your partner that you care about their future too. It's not even just right now. I'm here for the long haul. For what I have the
tiniest blurb when it comes to communication, because communication is a massive way that we show up for our partner and that we show love. the absence of it is a way that we unintentionally neglect them or hurt the relationship. So I wrote down, I don't know what this means, but stop arguing and stop interrupting when there's a conflict. Take turns speaking and try to understand their perspective. It sounds kind of stupid, but really when you apply those principles, like don't argue, don't interrupt, take turns speaking, and care about each other's perspective. When you're both trying to do that, man, conflicts get solved, at least maybe not solved, but worked through, and at least,
oh, sure.
And
if you're bad at that, some people are. I still am. I remember, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but at some point in my parents' marriage, they noticed that they were terrible at fighting, and my mom introduced Conversation Bear. And Conversation Bear was, nobody could talk unless they were holding Conversation Bear. And that, believe me, it was painful. I saw the pain on my dad's face. But it was necessary because there was so much interruption that nothing was getting accomplished. So
yeah, it's so true. When you hear I'm not around other people that argue very often, but when you hear somebody get into an argument, if you heard you and your partner actually getting into, you might think, gosh, like, they're not even letting each other speak.
Yeah.
We should be cognizant of that. And we should, I understand how difficult that is because we feel like they accused us of something or they're blaming us for something that's not true. No. I need to explain myself. What you said wasn't true. I need to but at the end of the day, like, what they're feeling matters just as much as what they're saying. And if you don't care to if you don't care to really explore what they're feeling, then you're going to miss a portion of the argument. And like we've said in other episodes, like, conflict is an opportunity to understand each other better and to connect better. But if we do it wrong, it's distance and disconnection that's going to be the result. So
that's true. We did it. We've brought the level of the pot. It's depressing. Are you feeling
it's always my fault, Ricky.
I'm just saying it's feeling like time to close our Saturday off with something really positive and uplifting.
Oh, I love that. Some sort of I'm assuming that we're gonna be watching some sort of a movie again.
Oh, that sounds good. Well, that's togetherness that's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, it's and let me say real quick for all those people for all those families that have kids. I have 4 kids. Like, they suck the life out of you. They suck the time out of your day. Their energy sucks. They just suck everything from you.
Yeah.
We especially have to be cognizant and intentional that we are prioritizing our relationship and our partner during these tough seasons. I mean, I have 4 kids that are under 8 years old. So we're not just in a tough season. We're in tough years.
Yeah, you're in the trenches. Yeah.
So you have
that's rough.
So there's a reason why so many relationships crumble after that first or second kid. It's because it's so stressful and we don't have time for each other, and we didn't do a good job establishing how to make time for each other, and we didn't put these things that we talked about today into practice. So when S hits the fan, we're just not prepared at all.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So my only point is having gone through that and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we have to both be cognizant and intentional about how we want to show up for this relationship. So, and these are some of the great ways to do that.
Yeah. So practical ideas, perhaps you hire a babysitter on Saturday night at 8:00. That, I think, is really important if you're financially able to do that, or you have an aunt or a cousin who could babysit. That can be great too.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, how many couples, I get this way too often, where they say, we haven't gone out on a date in a year. I'm like that alone is so destructive to your relationship. I know you didn't do it intentionally, but of course you're not feeling connected.
Well,
and you know what's really sad? I know I'm interrupting you.
No,
but this
you're
is the last
fired
thing.
up.
This is the last thing I'm going to say. I'm fired up.
I love it.
When we don't do these things, when 2 people aren't establishing a culture of all the things that we talked about here, I'm not saying they're doing it perfectly. I'm just saying they're doing it intentionally. They have a direction for that they want the relationship to go. When 2 people aren't doing that, like we would just say, you guys need to go on a date more. You know what happens in these relationships where there's just disconnection after disconnection after disconnection? They don't want to go out on a relationship, or they don't want to go out on a date with each other.
Yeah.
Because the relationship has been so rough. Who wants to go on a date with somebody that they don't feel safe with, they don't trust, they never had a mutual vulnerability with? Like,
right.
Who wants to go on a date with that person?
So how do you address that, Jimmy? Let's say you are in that distressed couple that is like, I don't even want to go on a date with them.
I don't want to get too dark for everybody, Ricky, but
I know.
Here's my only point. I'll give you a really short and sweet answer. Mm-hmm. When there's resentment, we need to pay attention to that. When there's resentment and bitterness building up, when we feel neglected, especially the people pleasers, especially the anxious hearts out there, just in case you need any help, The Anxious Hearts Guide.
There's my book. Thanks, Jimmy. The Anxious Hearts Guide at anxiousheartsguide.com.
When there's resentment, when there's resentment and bitterness and neglect, when we feel those things, we need to validate that within ourselves, even if no one else is validating it, and we need to do something about it. We can't let that fester.
Bring it out in the open. Yeah.
Bring it out.
Yeah.
Talk to a professional. That doesn't mean explode on your partner. It means talk to a professional about, okay, how can we get out of these dangerous negative cycles that we're in our relationship? There's no reason. I'm not saying bring it up to your partner if you guys can't have a safe conversation around that. There's no point. So go talk to a professional.
And a little ray of hope. Resentment doesn't mean doom. It does not. There's ways out of resentment. If you're looking at your partner going, I don't even want to go on a date with this person, that doesn't mean you will always feel like that. If you guys can deal with that resentment in the company of a professional who could help you talk about it, you might find that same person being someone that you really do want to go on a date again. And you'll look back at that time going, man, that was rough, but I'm really glad we made it out of that.
For sure. The last thing I'll say, I did write this down, but I forgot to mention it, is to read a book together. I think. Oh,
that's big. That's really big.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And I get it that there's a lot of female partners. I wish my male partner would read a book with me. He'll never do that. I think that's where a little bit of our assertiveness needs to come in, and we need to say, I really want us to do this together. Like, do you want to love me? Because like, this is how I'm going to feel loved. You read this book with me every night. Don't fall asleep. We prioritize 30 minutes where we just read this book together.
And hey, on that note, it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship or a self-help book. Some of the books that my partner likes are fiction warriors. It's not the stuff that I like, but when we read a book together, even if it's not a self-improvement book, we have something to talk about that we both know a little bit about. What do I have? I have one. But if
you're in a struggling relationship,
then that would be self-help.
I think that would. There's a Gottman book called John and Julie Gottman wrote a book called The Man's Guide to Woman. That's a good one. You can read that together and be like, hey,
I don't know that one. You can be like, oh, cool.
Just a conversation starter. Like, hey, do you feel like this is true? Do you feel like this is the way that I am? It's got great tips in it. Yeah. I like that. If you're not a reader, Frank, I'm looking at you. Audiobooks are fantastic. My own partner, he's not somebody who likes to sit still. But in that way, he's found a way to read, and it's audiobooks for him. I love that. Let's leave it there. I'm really grateful stop right for there. That's it. I didn't have anything else. So Saturday night, man. Yeah. Let me end it too. I'm sorry. Couples with children. I had an image in my mind of I have a child too, and I remember one night my partner said, "Hey, let's watch a movie," and I thought, great, this is going to be 2 hours of some animated thing that I don't want to see, and we watched a movie with my child. And he had his arm around me the whole movie, and I gotta say that felt every bit as good as a date. Just saying, That's so nice. My son was excited because it was an animated movie, and it was just nice getting to kind of snuggle with him while we watched something. You touched on something that's so important, that even if you can't find a babysitter, you can create a climate where you can pull away once the kids are in bed. You can do something together. You could take a bath together. I know I know that was a big jump, but like I'm just saying, you could do something together. You know,
Saying.
I don't mean to bring everything back to that, but like, you know what you could do? You know what you could do? You could play a board game together. Do something that you both, you could find something to do where it's like still a special time and it feels like a date.
Totally. Mm-hmm. We play
Go
a lot
out on the
crib.
back porch, so like away from the kids. You know.
Yeah, nice. Yep. Awesome. Well, this is great. This was uplifting. I liked this.
I think it was.
This is.
I think we touched on a lot of great things. If somebody really wanted to, they could put some of this stuff into practice, and they'd be like, oh yeah.
And I mean it when I said at the beginning of the episode that if you just pick one of these things and make an effort to do it on a regular basis,
consistently,
you're going to notice some changes.
For sure. And if both of you did it, come on.
Oh my gosh. Like, don't even,
You would see some, you would be like, this feels good. Mm-hmm. This, whatever we have now, I like this.
I'm digging it. And that's that's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you think, Jimmy?
Yes,
we're here.
Absolutely.
I want you guys to
It's
feel
not the
better
money.
in your relationship.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but for real, you should be. Someday, maybe.
By the way, this
someone will
episode
pay
is
us.
brought to you by.
We don't have any sponsors. We might need to. Work
No,
on
we
that.
haven't reached out to anybody. We could, I guess.
No.
We
The
could have a
Gobbins?
sponsor.
Do they sponsor people?
I don't know.
I don't know.
This episode brought to you by Power Bank. You know, we could have a sponsor if we wanted one. Anyways, that got weird.
It got weird fast. That's all right.
You know what? That's us.
And that's okay. Hey, and I think you've said this before too, Jimmy. We would talk about this stuff
For sure.
even if this wasn't our job, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even if we had like regular jobs, I think I would still want to sit down every now and then with someone else who is as passionate about this stuff as I am and just go to town on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was our cue. I thought that your dog was barking at the door, so I was going to say.
She is.
So that's a good cue.
I think that's usually our cue that it's time to go. So thanks. This was a good one. And and
this was
I would
great.
also, if I can make a request, if you guys apply any of this, Jimmy and I would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would.
I love that. Instagram direct message me what you
too.
have applied and how it's working for you. I
would
read
love
all
that.
the messages. I can't reply to all of them, but I read all of them.
I love that. What if it says please reply at the end? What do you do then?
Delete immediately.
Just kidding.
I don't know. Anyway.
I know. I have like 50 messages in my inbox. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard. We can't afford personal assistance, so
I know.
It's tough.
That's part. No one's listening anymore, but part of me, prioritizing my relationship is making sure that I'm not just staring at my phone all the time.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I'm really glad you said that. If I wasn't in a relationship, I feel like I would be able to reply to all the messages. But my relationship with my partner, my relationship with my child, my poor dog who clearly wants to go on a walk right now. Like there are other things that we need to attend to that make our lives really deep and meaningful. So
Yep, that
if
doesn't
we're not
mean that we don't-
replying, yeah,
Yep,
it's not that we don't care.
We care deeply, deeply. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyways,
that's a good spot.
thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. See you next time.
We'll see you next time.